And you're welcome to Business Highlights on Trust TV. On the show, we take an in-depth look at developments that happen within the business and economic space and how they affect the average Nigerian out there. My name is Chamun Dabeng, and I'll be your host. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria is once again being brought to the fore for quite a few reasons, and we will get into the nitty-gritty of that right after the break. You're welcome back to the show, and once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Now, it can be recalled that the newly redesigned NAIRA notes hit circulation back in December of 2022, but since its release, it has actually been quite scarce. Now, it's been about 17 days or so since it actually hit circulation, and many Nigerians are still yet to actually get to pull these NAIRA notes from the ATM. Now we're looking at a 31st January deadline, which is fast approaching, and many Nigerian citizens out there, many businesses are actually worried, considering the fact that many are still yet to actually see and hold the NAIRA notes themselves. Now joining me in the studio is trade and investment consultant Collins Nwosu. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this whole NAIRA note thing has caused a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of discussions going on in different coffers, even before it actually started circulating in the 15th of December, 2022. What do you make of this situation? What do you think of the policy itself?
I think on the surface, it's not a bad idea to have currencies, taken out of circulation and you have new ones printed. Indeed, Nigeria really is overdue for such an activity. The question now is, how are we going about it? Because you need to know that currency, cash in itself, or currency, even if it's not cash, is what drives the economy.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the Nigerian population, if you look at the Nigerian context, we have out of over 3 trillion naira cash that is in circulation, more than 80% of that, that's more than 2.2 trillion, is not within the banking sector. Now
Yes.
You're trying to get these people to bring money into the banking sector, remembering that another over 38 million or so adults do not have access to financial services.
Yes.
So they're out of the financial inclusion space. It makes it a bit tricky. So the question is, while it's a good policy, how we're implementing it or how we're going about it becomes the problem. So what are the solutions that we could have, or how else could we implement it? Are we looking at extending the deadlines? Okay, even if we're not going to extend the deadlines, how do we start capturing people into the space that need to be included in, financially, so that we don't affect the economy? Remember, again, more than 90% of the businesses are small businesses. These guys, they deal with cash. A lot of it is dealing with cash. So if you all of a sudden yank off what keeps the economy functioning, then you're going to create a problem, right? So something that should have been good becomes a bad thing, so to speak. So it's a good policy, so to speak. If you ask me, yes, it's good, it's overdue, but the manner of implementation is bringing up so many issues that we need to tackle. If not, 2023 will be a very tough year.
All right, so in a few weeks, we're looking maybe in the next 2 weeks or so, the deadline is actually going to be here. Now, this has triggered a lot of certain types of responses coming from businesses and other individuals, in the sense that rather than actually taking cash, they will now opt for e-payments. Now, is this, will I call it trickery on the part of the CBN? Have they sort of infused the thought of e-payments and pushing for a cashless Nigeria without the Nigerians even knowing that this is what they're doing?
Well, having alternatives to actual cash is important, right? It's very, very important. And as a business person, I expect that they would find solutions. So if I take cash from you, that will be stuck with me. That becomes an issue for me. So I need to find something that is safe. Put it in my bank. If not, put it in a wallet that I can access. So every business person would want to protect themselves. I would, and that's not a bad position to take. What you'll see is that it would accelerate non-cashless transactions, but have we built enough capacity for that? So you have POS businesses jacking up their charges because all of a sudden they're swamped. You're not having correspondent petty thievery going on, right? Because these guys are not handling so much cash that they're not able to take to the banks on time. So it's creating an issue. it's a good thing that we're looking at alternatives, and I think more people need to take on those alternatives. The question is, how do we intentionally, as a nation, move people? So there are businesses that are looking at doing mobile money payments. I mean, if you go to Ghana, it's becoming, the normal thing. Kenya is already far ahead with the M-Pesa and all of that. So how do we push our people to begin to use these alternatives? So we kill several birds with one stone, which is increase financial inclusion, increase, local transactions, and do not kill the small businesses that account for about 48%, or well over 40% of our GDP over the past 5 years, right? So my suggestion would be, rather than look at issues and issues and issues, I would say, why don't we do some of the things that have worked? Or why don't we adopt some things that will work? Can I bring my money to the bank, but I know that that money is never going to leave, right? So we can keep collecting the cash. If I take it to a business person, the business person may not be in a position to collect it because they cannot exchange it. But if we take it to the bank and the bank accepts it and no, we can't pay you this money anymore, that way you've technically continued to mop up the funds from the system without affecting the system negatively. So you have 2-point-something trillion that is outside of the banks. There's no way you're going to do that within the short time frame that you have mentioned. Remember, we have people in the rural areas. You have over 38 billion people that are, having issues. They're not really financially included. There's no way you're going to bring those people into the systems overnight. So if you look at the things that need to be done, what is the alternative? I think that's what we should be looking at. What's the alternative? Yes, cashless Nigeria, beautiful. Or cash, not totally cashless as in less cash Nigeria, let me put it that way. Less cash Nigeria, that's fine. But let's not punish the small businesses. Let's not punish the average Nigerian while trying to implement these policies. And that is possible.
All right, so there are a few things that you actually brought up, and one of them, of course, was the POS charges. That's something I do want to get into in the course of the show because, these POS charges, POS agents hiking up their POS charges is because of the cash withdrawal limits that were put out there. It comes now with a higher bank charges and all of that. So we'll be getting into that later on. But as you were saying, how does the country become intentional about pushing Nigerians towards a more cashless society? And now we do have, infrastructural issues when it comes to our, should I say telecommunications technology? Yes, so when you have e-payments or bank transactions, online banking transactions, you have situations where people end up, losing money, or the money doesn't end up being delivered to where it's supposed to be. And there isn't a lot of, let me not say there's not a lot, but there are situations where people can't do anything about it, even though they've reported the cases to these banks. Now, with these sort of infrastructural issues still going on, do you really foresee Nigerians, wanting to even go towards that cashless Nigeria? Because we do have people in the rural areas who don't believe in banking, who feel that the banks are just there to steal their money with all of their charges,
Well, let's say this. Coincidentally, a few days ago, I got paid back money that had been debited by I went to a store, I used the ATM, it debited me, and I did not, they said, oh, it's rejected and all of that. So I reported to my bank. My bank said, we'll look into it. We'll look into it. We'll get back to you in 48 hours. This is actually 2 weeks. But I got the money back, right? So I think it's progress versus when we weren't getting attention. So what could actually happen is that the regulatory agencies, so the central bank that is responsible for ensuring that financial institutions carry out their fiduciary responsibilities to the public, we hold them accountable. So if you complain to CBN and if something is not going on, can we take the channel of complaints?
Yes.
I have complained to the bank. 48 hours, I've not gotten a response. Can I escalate that? Can the bank now say, oh, look, I'm reporting to the unit in central bank that is responsible for this, and they look into it? Because when we hold these institutions responsible, they would respond. They will. They actually do. In instances where they've been held responsible, they have responded. So I think that's what we need to look at. In terms of infrastructure, we'll also, that's why I said, we'll have to start looking at alternative payments. Mobile money payments become very, very key. Mobile penetration in Nigeria is the highest in West Africa. It's one of the highest in the African continent. So people have mobile phones and you're using them. So what we need to do is take advantage of this high level of penetration to ensure that the rural populace, those in the rural communities, are able to access it. I remember at the advent of having ATMs, and online banking, not many people would sign on to online banking, but now you go to the marketplace, oh, do me transfer, do me transfer, is the common thing. So it's a question of pushing people in that place.
It was honestly a bit of a war even getting Nigerians on board with online banking, but we're actually getting there little by little.
Yeah, and most people will say, oh, do me a transfer, and if you're not, they're like reluctant to take cash from you, which is a good thing. So let's again look at our neighbors, right? We're not going far out into Europe. What has happened in Kenya? What's happening in Ghana? They have adopted it and used it to bring in, the local populace into it. So how can we quickly get ourselves into this? We just have to look at the value chains in financial inclusion. So we have our national banks, we have the regional banks, we have the microfinance banks. Those institutions have a strong role to play. We have cooperatives. Those institutions have a strong role to play. So unconventional thinking is probably what's going to get us there. So mobile money can work, should be encouraged. Microfinance banks should be the center of attention when it comes to getting all of these people into the systems. And then having the tech people, because we cannot talk about this without tech. We have a lot of tech gurus. I mean, Flutterwave is Nigerian, Paystack is Nigerian. So we have growing tech. The world is looking to Nigeria to get out tech stars. So we too, from the financial services sector, the central bank should look at it and encourage the tech people to bring up more solutions that will help us mop up these funds. Right?
All right, so we're going to go on a short break, and when we get back, we're going to be taking a look at the cash withdrawal limits, which, as most of us do know, took effect on January 9th, and there's been quite a ruckus since then. There's been quite a stir coming from POS agents, the business owners, and a lot of Nigerian individuals out there, basically. So when we get back, we'll be talking about that, so don't go anywhere.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Or really, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
You're welcome back to Business Highlights on Trust TV. My name is Chamon Dabeng, and I'm still here with trade and investment consultant Collins Nwosu. And right now we're going to be talking about the cash withdrawal limits, which took effect on January 9th, and so far a lot of people are still talking about it. It's still on the lips of many Nigerians out there. And basically what this limit is that for individuals and corporate organizations, you have 500,000 naira and 5 million naira respectively. So once again, what I want to know is what you really make of this policy, because with this policy there is a processing fee of 3% and 5%. Now, what do you think of this?
So the idea is the central bank wants us to move money within the banks. Remember that more than 2 trillion out of 3 trillion is circulating outside of the financial services sector. And that's kind of an issue because with more money within the banks, that kind of money supply within the banking system. Those are the legal systems that enable us give out loans, give out certain financial services that could help in building up the economy. Now, if that is not happening, it also has an impact on investment levels and all. That's on the one hand. Not to say that alternatives are not there, but majorly those are the drivers that we can monitor, measure, and then make policy decisions based out of. So if we have a fee that discourages people from keeping money and then moving money within the system, then that's a good thing. The question now is, how effective will it be? Which brings me back to what we said earlier. If I were to perform a transaction through your bank and my bank, and we have issues. How do we resolve it? How quickly do we resolve it? It may be my last 10K, and I need that to make a purchase, and that's what's going to help me generate the 12 or 13,000 that I will go back and do businesses with. Because remember, I said most of our business, 90% of our businesses are small businesses. So it's important that we consider that and consider the efficiency of the banking system. Yeah.
All right, so we do have a package to show you guys right now. It's POS agents out there. They're complaining. They're not really happy about this policy, and they're asking for the reversal of the policy. So let's take a look.
Central Bank of Nigeria recently raised the cash withdrawal limit set for individuals and corporate organizations to 500,000 naira and 5 million naira respectively. However, since the review, cross-section of Nigerians and POS operators have vocalized their concerns over the increase in the charges and limits of withdrawals.
Oh, it affected us. If government made any policy today, I want you to understand one thing: it's the masses. You understand? It's the masses that always affect. It affected us in so many ways. For instance, this issue of even the people that they are collecting 100, 200, they are the one that felt that really affects.
Before, customers were patronizing us in terms of withdrawing in a huge amount, but now as the police now employ customers, despite the fact they are allowed to withdraw using POS more than 100,000, but the bank is 100,000 naira only. Now they are no more coming to withdraw from us because we, the POS, we are getting money through the bank, which we are not withdrawing more than 100,000.
This 100,000, if you went to the bank from the ATM, if you want to withdraw money, from that 100,000, 5% is their charges, which almost all the customers are complaining. And we, the POS, we are not okay with it. It affects us a lot.
POS operators said the policy has affected their businesses negatively as customers cannot withdraw large amounts like before.
It affects everybody from the top, right? It's not just one person, right? It begins like a circle. And then at the end, it's the people at the grassroots that suffers it. Because you see that more money salaries are not increased. So the person at the bottom will keep giving and giving, and then there'll be nothing.
Most of the money that is generated from the government, we are the ones even generating it from them. We, like, our social welfare is not even included in the major things we are meant to be getting from what we are meant to be getting from the government.
Observers are of the view that the intervention of the Apex Bank with PEC's cash withdrawal limit can regulate the amount of cash outside the banking system and can also discourage promoters of vote buying.
All right, there you have it from POS agents in Abuja here. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen the POS agents actually coming out to speak. When the first policy came out, before it was finally, should I say, amended to what it is now, there was a lot of ruckus, and there's still, quite a bit of ruckus. Now, what do you make of the comments coming from these POS agents? 5% of 100,000, that's like 5K, 5,000 naira. That's right now, with the way the economy is, to sacrifice that 5,000, it's really tough.
Again, I say any policy that comes in will not be perfect. It is in the course of implementation that you begin to find certain things that need to be adjusted. The question is, will the central bank be listening and making those adjustments? I'm not saying withdraw the policies, but make adjustments. For instance, nothing says for those who are registered, because every POS, that every POS vendor is recognized by the bank. You don't just wake up, get a POS and work. You actually work through the banks. So for them, they should be considered also as financial institutions, right? They're closer to the microfinance institutions. There should be an adjustment in how they operate. So the kind of funds, how much they can withdraw and how much they can put back, because there's a whole lot of data that can be generated from POSs. So you don't have to charge 5% to the person who's operating a business, a POS business, or the person who just goes to an ATM and takes I mean, you don't have to charge 5%. They don't have to pay the same thing, right? It's like every business has wholesale and retail. My wholesalers are not going to be charged the way my retailers are.
Yes.
So those who are running those businesses should not have that kind of impact, because what it does, it will definitely affect the person who's taking the monies. Every POS operator is a business. That's why they jacked up their prices. I will not run a business and then run it down to the ground. So I think it's a policy adjustment that is required. Let's recognize who are in this value chain. The people who are in the microfinance level, the people who are running the POSs that are like microfinance should have a different rating, and then you can measure that. It's also something that is the data can easily be kept, because for every money you pay out and every money you take in is also within the system. And that data can help the banks to submit information to the MBS or to as Nigeria Bureau for Statistics, and the central bank can analyze that and say, okay, how is this running? But on the front of it, they can quickly respond, and I think that's important. Remember again that we're trying to go into, we're trying to promote non-oil export, right? And who are the people who are going to be doing, who would be agglomerating this? We have smallholder farmers, we have small businesses. These are the ones that are going to have to put together things that would begin to trade and export. How does that work?
Now, from the report that we just saw now, one of the very first people that actually spoke said that it's the masses that it affects at the end of the day. And as a result of these processing fees, of course, they've had to hike up their prices, their charges themselves, so that they can actually make a profit. Now, looking at the current economic state of the country, you still need to consider the people out there who can barely afford this. And when I speak of this, or when I think of this, I'm thinking of the people in the rural areas. Your mamas and your papas who are surviving solely on farming, who are making, barely the bare minimum to actually survive. And these are the POS agents that are, their own version of financial inclusion. Because there aren't a lot of banks in that area. There aren't a lot of ATMs in that area. So they are the ones who will really feel it at the end of the day. How do they end up being protected in all of this motion?
That is why the POSs need to be looked at as microfinance institutions. In fact, they are microfinance because, we have the SMEs, then we have the MSMEs. The same thing, you have microfinance, we should have the microfinance. We have Isusu people, so they're not too far from the league of Isusu. How will that work? What would be a good fee? Those are the considerations. What has been the option? These guys take 10,000, they take 20,000, they take 30,000. They take it from the POSs because those are the people closest to them, right? But because when they calculate the transportation and all of that, it's cheaper to just operate with those who have taken it as a business. So again, I would say we have to look, the policy adjustments that we'll be requesting for or should be requested for will be, can there be a different fee structure
for POS agents?
For POS agents. And the data of volumes that they run could also be considered. So if you have, no matter what it is, if I have my bank card, my bank recognizes that I can't take a certain amount. So that already covers having excess cash in the system or what have you. So there's no loss, but it would give me access to serve quite a number of people. So some of the things that they're afraid of, the system has already been structured to protect, to ensure that the policies are enforced and work fine. It's just, let's think of the little guy and let's make that adjustment. And it will not cost us much. In fact, it will boost the economy. Think of it, when we have more money in the system and we have people accessing more money, they're able to buy more, they're able to spend more. If they spend more, then we have a robust economy. When you don't do that, then there's little cash and everybody's fighting for that little fund. What happens?
So
there's a spike in interest. So we have to guard against that happening.
Yeah, it's about creating a level playing field for every person out there. At the end of the day, it's still beneficial for the Nigerian economy.
Yes, it is.
Like you said. All right, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to continue on with the show, but I would like to thank my guests in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Collins Nwosu, trade and investment consultant, for being a part of the show today. And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for hanging out with us and watching the show. Please do not forget to to follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. We're even on TikTok and Twitter. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere, basically. Yes, so don't forget to follow us, like, and subscribe. Drop your comments, whatever it is that you're feeling at that point. Well, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Please do come back again. Let's talk numbers.